The economy. We all know how it goes. The Republicans take the White House for 4 years and they push the economy forward. And then the Democrats take the White House for 4 years and they push social justice. And then it's time for the Republicans to run the ball again and they push the economy forward. And back to the Democrats for more social justice, right? I crunched the numbers. Let's take a look. Welcome to Swing Voter Central. When it comes to being president, doing a good job with the economy is broken down into a couple of metrics. 1, jobs created. 2, the GDP. The GDP is the gross domestic product, and it's basically how much we generated as a country in terms of revenue, in terms of production. That's how we measure the health of our economy. Now, I've always been told that the Republicans are good for the economy and the Democrats are good for social justice. It seemed like common knowledge my entire life until I looked at the numbers. And I'm about to show you some charts, and Republicans, bear with me. I'm about to make the Democrats look really good. But this is Swing Voter Central, so keep in mind, I am going to bring it back. But just to start us off, let's look at these numbers. Okay, so this is a chart of every president from Herbert Hoover down to Joe Biden, and this metric here is the GDP growth. Now let's take a look at that chart when we rank it from best to worst. Okay, blue is Democrat, red is Republican. As you can see, here it looks like the top 5 performers in terms of GDP growth were all Democratic generally, except for here, Gerald Ford. Good job, Gerald Ford. It's still not really clear who's better for the GDP. It's still a little bit scattered, in my opinion. This, however, is job growth over time. And when you look at it ranked from best to worst, it looks like the entire top portion of the chart is dominated by the Democrats. This chart here is the unemployment annual growth over time. And this is unemployment ranked. It looks like
the economy does better under the Democrats than the Republicans. Now, it shouldn't be that way.
Interesting. Very interesting. I always would have pictured those numbers looking different. What about you? But even when looking at these numbers on a high-level overview, we can't really get a deep understanding of who's better for the economy. Because in order to answer that question, we have to ask, for whom was the economy better under each of these presidents? Because depending on who you ask, you're going to get a very different story. So in order to understand American voters as it pertains to the economy, we have to break it down into groups. So we have the elite class and the upper class. We've got the middle class, the working class, and low-income Americans. Each of these groups votes pretty consistently for the same people. Why? Before we get into this, I just need everyone to know that I have been a staunch Democrat all my life. I voted for Obama twice. I voted for Biden. I might vote for Kamala Harris, but I really don't know, because for the first time ever this year, I decided to Google everything and look into the economy and Black America and immigration and all of these things. And it turns out that Republicans are very misunderstood. Trump's economy was really good pre-pandemic. Under Trump, unemployment hit an all-time low that this country hasn't seen in about 50 years. And now, of course, Obama had a lot to do with that. Obama's economy was incredibly impressive. The momentum that Trump inherited from the Obama economy was pretty strong. However, the Trump economy did see an uptick in the numbers, which means that it wasn't just Obama's work that was trailing off into the sunset. Trump helped boost the economy. These are proven numbers. As much as that comes as a shock to me, a former Democrat, I'm now an independent. So let's break down the voter groups. First, we have the elites, the millionaires and billionaires who are running our country. Guys, it turns out Bernie Sanders wasn't wrong. The elite class are the top 1%. If you guys think that the Democrats are the good guys, and if you think that the Democrats are not taking money from millionaires and billionaires to suit their agenda, I used to think that. Meet Steve Mnuchin, American investment banker and billionaire political donor. Buckle up, Democrats, because this is a real fun story. Goldman Sachs executive Steve Mnuchin led a group of investors, including George Soros. Together, they bought a failing mortgage bank called IndyMac. They renamed it One West Bank. While Steve Mnuchin was CEO, he was also known as the foreclosure king because One West Bank foreclosed on thousands of homes for people who couldn't pay their mortgage during the 2008 financial crisis. And a disproportionate number of those people, by the way, were minorities who couldn't pay their bills. And all of this happened in the state of California, while Kamala Harris was the Attorney General. As the Attorney General, it was Kamala's job to investigate One West Bank. And Kamala and her team uncovered more than 1,000, look at me, over 1,000 violations of foreclosure law. Kamala's team recommended that she prosecute Steve Mnuchin and George Soros and One West Bank. And Kamala Harris decided not to prosecute One West Bank. And guess who donated to Kamala Harris's re-election campaign for Attorney General? Was it Steve Mnuchin? It was Steve Mnuchin. He's everywhere.
And I believe companies need to play by the rules. And if they don't, I will hold them accountable. And if anyone has a question about that, just look at my record as Attorney General. Look at my record in California, taking on the big banks for predatory lending.
But Democrats, don't despair. Kamala Harris isn't the only one who's beholden to the millionaires and billionaires. Because guess who Donald Trump appointed as his Secretary of Treasury during the first year of his presidency? It was Steve Mnuchin! Woo! Steve Mnuchin, he's everywhere. Steve Mnuchin. I find it really sad that in order to discuss the American economy, we have to talk about the millionaires and billionaires. I feel like it's Bernie Sanders we should have a billionaire parade. We should just roll them all through and just have a little parade for the billionaires. Do, 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 do. On the Democrat side, we have Reid Hoffman, co-founder of LinkedIn, criticized for funding disinformation campaigns. Next up, we've got George Soros, Hungarian dude who's donated hundreds of millions of dollars to American elections. Next up, Tom Steyer, billionaire environmentalist. Billionaire environmentalist? Billionaire environmentalist. Are you kidding me? Okay, wait. Pause the show. I have to Google if Tom Steyer drives a private jet. Okay, I Googled it. Tom Steyer, billionaire environmentalist, flew a private jet prior to his 2020 campaign bid when he ran for president. And then after he was done running for president, he went back to flying on his private jet. Ah, Tom Steyer, you dog you. You had us all fooled, didn't you? Not really, though, because let's examine Tom Steyer for a second. I know Democrats want to be like, oh, environmentalists, see, our billionaires are good. Our billionaires care about the planet. Do they? Billionaire environmentalist? Let's dig into this a little bit, shall we? So Tom Steyer made his fortune in the oil industry. And when the green energy boom reached its peak in the mid-2000s, Tom Steyer decided to divest from fossil fuels and invest in green energy. Billionaire oil investor becomes billionaire environmentalist. And ever since then, he's been donating hundreds of millions of dollars to Democratic candidates who, of course, are peddling for green energy, to the tune of $350 million. The green energy business sector flourishes when Democrats pass green energy bills, especially international pacts like the Green New Deal. So when Democrats try to sell Tom Steyer as like a reformed oil tycoon who became a billionaire environmentalist, I say bullshit to you. I imagine that Tom Steyer's transition into green energy looked a little something like this.
How's the energy in this site?
Green, mostly. Like healthy leaves,
Money.
Exactly.
I like your maid.
So do I.
I wouldn't be surprised to find out that that movie character from the movie Baby Mama was loosely based on Tom Steyer. When I found out that the Democrats were taking donations from billionaires like Tom Steyer, I decided to look into it. I was like, okay, well, where is this going? What are our politicians doing with that money? Are they really changing the world? Are they changing the climate? Guys, let's examine what Joe Biden did. Joe Biden did two things. One, he paused the Keystone XL pipeline, which was a pipeline from Canada down to, I think, Texas. The point of the Keystone pipeline was to transport crude oil from Canada down to the oil refineries in the US. Guys, I don't know how to tell you this, but we didn't need that pipeline. It was an easy policy for Biden to pass. And the reason is because we, shortly after Tom Steyer, billionaire environmentalist, invested all of his money in green energy during the green energy boom, something else happened. The shale boom. In the mid-2000s, we discovered that beneath our American soil is more oil and natural gas than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. We have enough oil and natural gas to make the United States energy independent from our adversaries for the next 100 years. So guys, it doesn't matter who's in office, we are going to drill that oil. Kamala Harris, pro-fracking. Joe Biden, pro-fracking. Donald Trump, pro-fracking. We are going to get that oil one way or another. And there are pros and cons to fracking. And unfortunately, for some reason, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump aren't telling you anything about it. So I will have a full episode on fracking coming soon. When Joe Biden took his multi-million-dollar donation from Tom Steyer, he did two things. One, shut down that pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline. Two, he paused or banned the creation of new drilling sites, which sounds good to people who are anti-fracking and anti-drilling, except that behind the curtains, behind the scenes, all of the existing fracking sites and drilling sites were still drilling away. Under the Biden presidency, drilling for oil and fracking did not slow down. It was all a dance. It was all smoke and mirrors to make the American people think that he was doing something for the environment, that he was doing something for green energy, and that he was doing something for his billionaire donors. Let's continue. Back to the billionaire parade. So again, we had Reid Hoffman, George Soros, Tom Steyer, billionaire environmentalist, and Steve Mnuchin, American investment banker. On the Republican side, we have also Steve Mnuchin. This guy's everywhere. Can't get rid of him. Steve Mnuchin. Next, we have Kelsey Warren, oil tycoon. Followed by Timothy Mellon, banking billionaire. And last but not least, Robert Mercer. Now pause for a minute. Robert Mercer is my favorite supervillain because Robert Mercer is a computer scientist and he's highly fascinated by big data. Now, I am a digital marketer by day. My passion is collecting big data and studying it and figuring out who the buyers are for the product that I'm trying to sell. It can take months of collecting huge amounts of data and sorting through it all and creating a buyer persona based on your interests and your passions and your core values, which is cool. I think it's awesome. But what Robert Mercer did, he was a key financier in Cambridge Analytica. I'm sure you've heard that name before. Cambridge Analytica is a data farming company, and they would collect massive amounts of data from apps, from Facebook, from all different angles. Do you remember taking a personality quiz in 2016? Which Disney princess are you? Which Harry Potter character are you? Which house are you in? Is it Gryffindor? Guys, in 2016, Cambridge Analytica put out personality quizzes all over Facebook and reached millions of Americans and asked them questions about their core values, about their interests. He took all of that data and all of that information and used it to build a voter persona about American voters. And then he used that persona to target political ads that would manipulate you supposedly into voting one way or another. Anyway, I know what you're thinking. The Republican supervillains sound a lot worse than the environmental billionaire supervillain. And you're right, except the Democrats have this guy, Reid Hoffman, who was funding disinformation campaigns also during 2016, except on behalf of the Democrats. Stop calling yourself the good guys, Democrats. You are not the good guys. There are no good guys. It's ridiculous. Childish, which is why when Democrats say things like
J.D. Vance is the protege. The only jobs he has really ever had are as the protege of an eccentric right-wing German billionaire.
I'm like, why are you even bringing that up? The Democrats have billionaires too. And first of all, Peter Thiel, the eccentric, what do they call him? German billionaire. First, I don't think JD Vance is that great. He's kind of a turd, but I'm going to defend Peter Thiel for a second. Not defend him, but equate. Rachel Maddow said German billionaire as if him being German was like some big scandal. First of all, Peter Thiel came to the US as a child and he's been here for most of his life. On the Democrat side, we have George Soros, Hungarian billionaire who has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to Democratic candidates. Now, personally, I don't know about George Soros. The Democrats will say that he's a good guy and he's a philanthropist and he just wants to help the world. He's a Holocaust survivor. That's a fact. So maybe he is. Maybe he is just a survivor who wants to help the world. But then Republican billionaires will say things like this.
In my opinion, he fundamentally hates humanity. That's my opinion.
I don't know what to make of that, you guys. Honestly, I don't know. You know what I think? I think it shouldn't matter because I think that billionaires and millionaires shouldn't be making campaign donations to our politicians. I think that should be left up to the people. So that was the elites.
And we've still got more to go, but I've decided to break this episode up into 2 parts because things are about to get dark. And I feel like that doesn't really fit with the tone of how I started with the elites. So I will be back tomorrow with part 2 of the economy. Thanks for watching Swing Voter Central, and I'll see you soon.